But Becca, I can give you some feedback. I watched your two changes. Where did I write this down? This is not the same piece of paper. This one. I was taking notes from the worship forum this morning. So yeah. Or sorry, not this morning, the one from Wednesday. So I was on that piece of paper. But I liked it. Tell me what your changes were, and then I'll tell you what I noticed.
So I mostly changed my objective between the two of them. The first one, I was kind of going with the intent to like humiliate the other person or like insult the other person. And then the second one was more of just to like defend like my job and defend my interests.
Yeah, I noticed that because at the beginning, the energy felt totally different. So from the very first time, your energy felt very intense and very direct. And like it kind of felt like it was coming forward, like piercing somebody. So I wrote down, I was like, is this to humiliate, to shame, to annihilate? Like, what is it? But it was always about something to do with the other person and attacking the other person. And then the second time, it was definitely a lot softer, a lot more lighter. And now understanding like that objective changed. It was to defend yourself and defend your work and your reputation. That made sense. Like it came across a lot lighter. It also came across a little bit more patronizing. Like, well, hold on. This is what I know. This is what I do. And you're questioning that. So, it was really interesting. I wrote down the second one. I was like more patronizing, lighter. The first one, the beginning was totally different. It was good. And I noticed you've chosen the same script. Is that so you have something you can keep working with?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, in all the classes I've done, they've always said like, if you're doing something, like keep working with the same thing if you can. Because also, I mean, it just felt easier to just work on the same script, so I didn't have to memorize a new one every day.
And I've noticed like each time you've done a take, because you've done 6 takes of the same script now, you are way more confident. You own those lines. Like, you know the words in your head and they're coming out, but it's like you own them. So you actually are saying them from truth, which is good. What I would challenge you now is the end of today's class is it says just do one take that you think is your best. Go ahead and do that one take. But my challenge for you would be to actually try and change it up somehow. So there's a little bit of a routine and a pattern that you've fallen into, which is great. And it's good for consistency. It's good for continuity, which is what we'll talk about today. But just for your own experimentation, because it's a self-tape and you can change something up. Like, instead of delivering line in the same way that you have, the same rhythm or pattern, just try and change it up. Punch a different word, or like something that you question, maybe give it a period at the end and just see what happens. Just for fun, for experimenting. But otherwise, it's been great. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Amanda, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, I watched your homework pieces too. You sent in a couple yesterday, which are great, or today. So thank you for that. I'm going to give you some feedback. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. So first of all, I love your background. I love how clean and simple it is. You just have that white curtain behind you, and that's really nice. It means that we focus on your face, we focus on your eyes, and your dark hair behind it is really standing out. So that's a great choice for your background in terms of just doing a self-tape. I really like how you have chosen to explore different scripts as well. Becca was saying she's been doing the same script, and you're always welcome when it comes to self-tapes and it comes to classes. You're welcome to pick and choose what you want. So I like how you've tried different things. You have such a calm energy when you're on film. Like, I don't feel like it's too much. Even with Becca, I don't feel like either of you are too much. I don't feel like I need to turn down the volume. Like, everything just sits quite nicely, and your voices are great. Sometimes with like theater trained actors, when they get on camera, their voices will still be like overpronounced and you'll be very loud and very distinct, and you don't have to do that. You can almost mumble a word on film and it still comes across, because I mean, that's the job of the camera director, to get close enough, and the boom operator to get the microphone close enough. Like, we don't have to be as conscious of that. Yeah, you have such a soft, calming presence. Your close-up shot, Amanda, when you did the medium shot and then you redid the same take for your close-up shot, the first like 10 seconds of that close-up shot were incredible. I was so committed. Like, you were so committed to that moment. I so believed what you were saying. Toward the end, I started to kind of pull out of it a little bit, just because what we saw was the camera right on the side of your face like this. If you can pull the camera just to the center of your face and just shift your gaze off to the side rather than being all the way portrait or profile, sorry, it'll keep our whole, like your whole face engaged, and we can still connect with it. At the beginning, you were like straight off, and then you shift it a little bit and it loses the intensity and power as your face moves back. So if you're doing a self-tape, just make sure you keep your face forward, but those first 10 seconds, 100% believed you. You said there are no bathrooms. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find you a bathroom. So that was great. And the only other thing for Amanda, I would just say it was just watch your head. There are a couple of times where you gesticulate with your head a bit, and if you're in such a close-up shot, you don't need to move your head as much because that movement becomes quite large. So if you can kind of just control your head and just pierce somebody with your eyes rather than feeling like you have to pierce them with your whole head, I think that'll help. But both of you have done great work. Like I can see from each day, even just the little changes that you make with a new script or a different script, the progress has been really, really nice. So keep it up.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Do you guys have any questions before we start today's class? It's the last one, which is a little sad.
I mean, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Anything you found interesting or you're like, oh, I've never thought about that? Or
There was one thing. I forgot what it was though. Actually, I do kind of have a question. So beats, I am like kind of familiar with that in a theater sense,
yep.
But are there any like differences between the two? Because I couldn't.
Between
like,
film and theater?
Yeah, between like film and theater.
Nope, they're the same. So let me catch my thoughts for a sec. So with beats, they're kind of like, people use them in two ways. So like I said, the first way is a beat or a pause in a line, where you kind of like within that sentence, you have a little pause or you have a moment just to kind of catch your breath. So that's a beat. The second beat is always, and I've often heard it called as well, a unit of action. So it's when you go through a scene and you take the whole scene, but you break it into small chunks. So it's not broken up for you. The only thing that would be different with film versus theater is that film might have a little bit more like action description in between the lines of dialogue, and that usually indicates that there'd be some sort of change, whereas theater, you tend to have the action happening within the middle of a line, so you kind of like follow through. So you'd have to go through, and it might be halfway through a line that a beat changes, whereas in film it might be once the action description comes back in, then you would change. But no, otherwise, whatever beat, however you look for it in a screenplay or a stage play, sorry, for theater, is the same way you look for it in film.
Okay, cool.
Good question. Amanda, any questions from you or anything you noticed where you're like, oh, that was interesting?
No.
I hadn't thought about that. No, you're just soaking up all the information. Sounds good. Well, today is the last day. We'll be going through continuity, eyeline, and connection. So these are things that we usually don't have to worry so much about with theater, so it is very film specific. With theater, you kind of just do everything in one take, and from beginning to end, you just have to run with the show. Whatever happens, happens. But with film, you stop and you start and you restart and you reshoot and you retake. So being able to have like total awareness of your body so that you do things the same way is really, really important. So we'll kind of go through like the different eras in continuity and the different areas that we need to be aware of as actors of how can we help maintain the continuity, the flow or the consistency of the shots. And then with eyeline, we'll talk a lot about what does it mean to look directly in the camera versus look slightly off? How does that make us feel different? And then some tips and tricks of like, if we have a camera right in front of us, what actually can we be looking at instead? And then the last one is just connection, and that's connecting to your process and how, as an actor, your process can influence the character. And there's a little example in there that you can watch for. And then also, how do you connect to the audience? Because you don't have a live audience with you. So how do you, like, what is it that you can do on set so that when the audience sit and watch it a year down the track after editing and after all the production side of stuff is done and it's been promoted and it's in the theaters, how can they still connect with your work and what you do? So we'll have a look at that. And then just at the end, it's like, how do we connect with God through all of this? Because this has been a lot of information about the actual technique and the detail work of what we do. But you can't do what you do without why you do it. And so for us, we want to make sure we're excellent in our craft so that we are engaging and dynamic storytellers. And once we are engaging dynamic storytellers, we have this vehicle that God can use. God can use us anyway, but if we can make our work as clear and as precise as we possibly can, then he can use us way more effectively or efficiently than what we could do if we're just ambiguous and kind of like meh. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ladies, I think you want to join me in thanking Caitlin for this week, which has been amazing.
Yes.
Right.
Not only for like the feedback that she's given and the personal time here, but I mean, this resource that she's given us with these videos, you can watch these over and over and over again. You can share them at your core. Do you guys teach at your church in any way?
I do not. We don't really have a big theater program at my church. I mean, I do play in the band, but that's it.
Can I give you a challenge, Becca?
Mm-hmm.
Start doing something on your own at your church, even if it's just like one special Sunday out of a month or one every 2 months or something. Or if they say, hey, we're going to read the Bible today, just put your hand up, volunteer, and challenge yourself so you can actually challenge your skill and be like, okay, how can I do this in an engaging, dynamic way? And maybe it is, seeing as we've done film acting, maybe it is you sit down and you do a self-tape of reading the Bible, or you tell that story in a different way somehow. But yeah, go ahead and challenge yourself on your own. How can you do it?
All right.
Okay, well, Caitlin, again, thank you.
No worries.
Awesome. Becca, Amanda, you've been awesome. Thank you for all of your hard work in this class. Keep it up.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Enjoy the video, and I'm sure I'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye.